Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so the 2026 World Cup is shaping up to be, without a doubt, the most colossal sporting event in human history. We're talking about a tournament of just unprecedented scale, happening simultaneously across an entire continent. But, with an event this massive, the headlines can get a bit chaotic. So our goal today is to cut right through that noise. We're going to consistently separate the spectacle from reality, making the news real and keeping it totally factual to give you the absolute best, most accurate overview of what's to come, both on and off the pitch.
Okay, let's dive right into this. To make sense of the whole shebang, here's how we're breaking it down today. First up, the biggest tournament ever. Second, new rules and team form. Third, a trio of ceremonies. And finally, we'll look at the off-pitch controversies.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the biggest tournament ever.
So, for the very first time ever, FIFA is expanding the World Cup from the traditional 32 teams to a massive 48 competing national teams. Think about that for a second. That means way more matches, a whole lot more players, and actually 4 nations. Cape Verde, Curaçao, Jordan, and Uzbekistan are making their historic World Cup debuts. The sheer volume of football we're about to witness is, frankly, just staggering. Now, to host 48 international squads, you obviously need a lot of space. 16. That is the number of different host cities spread out across the North American continent. We're talking about massive venues ranging from Los Angeles all the way to New York and Toronto down to Mexico City. The logistics of moving these teams, all the fans, and the global media across 16 huge hubs, it's a monumental undertaking. And right here is another historic first, the number 3. This is literally the first FIFA World Cup to be jointly hosted by 3 sovereign nations. You've got Canada, Mexico, and the United States all sharing the responsibilities. And while Mexico becomes the first country ever to host or co-host 3 times, and the U.S. hosts for the second time, this is actually Canada's very first time welcoming the Men's World Cup.
So the crucial point here is when this all actually goes down. Go ahead and mark your calendars for June 11th to July 19th, 2026. You guys might remember the 2022 Qatar edition totally disrupted the global football calendar by moving to November and December. Well, actually, this tournament officially returns to the traditional Northern Hemisphere summer schedule. Yep, a full, glorious month of summer football is officially back.
Moving right along to Section 2, new rules and team form. Okay, so IFAB is implementing a strict new set of rules to combat time wasting, and let me tell you, they are not messing around this year. You know how players sometimes slowly walk off the pitch to kill the clock? Yeah, not anymore. Substitutions now have a strict 10-second limit to exit. If they don't, the incoming player has to wait on the sidelines for a full minute, literally leaving their team a man down. Plus, referees can now initiate visual 5-second countdowns for throw-ins and goal kicks, and if the ball isn't played, boom, possession flips. Also, if a player needs medical treatment on the pitch, they've got to leave the field and wait a mandatory 1 minute before coming back. VAR is also expanding to catch clear mistakes on second yellow cards. But the absolute most surprising rule? Instant red cards for mouth covering. To stop players from insulting opponents or the ref while hiding their lips from the cameras, simply covering your mouth with your hand, arm, or shirt during a confrontation is now an automatic sending off. No way, right? It's going to completely change player behavior.
Now, looking beyond the rules, the top teams are already flexing their muscles in pre-tournament friendlies. Defending champions Argentina are looking incredibly sharp, coming off a 3-0 win against Iceland, with Lionel Messi continuing to confidently lead the charge. Then you have Portugal, who are actually drawing some real comparisons to Argentina's team structure, and they recently defeated Nigeria in a really solid showing. But then we have England, where the mood is surprisingly cautious despite their highly talented squad.
Yeah, get this. England boss Thomas Tuchel is actively downplaying expectations, stating, quote, not favorites. It's a really fascinating psychological approach, completely separating the usual intense media hype from the reality of the grueling competition they're about to face.
Which brings us to Section 3, a trio of ceremonies.
Marco Ballack, the really renowned Italian producer behind all the ceremonies, stated, "The idea is to narrate with 3 points of view and languages." His grand vision is to showcase unity by honoring the distinct design aesthetics and culture of each host nation. So in Mexico, you're going to see motifs inspired by traditional papel picado, paper cutouts. In Canada, a visual representation of their diverse multicultural mosaic. And in the US, a super shiny, glowing cup. It's all about bringing 3 very distinct nations together under one unified celebration of the sport. And instead of just one single opening act, we actually have a timeline of 3 ceremonies happening 90 minutes before kickoff in each respective city. On June 11th, Mexico City kicks things off with Maná, J Balvin, and Tyla. The very next day, Toronto brings Alanis Morissette and Michael Bublé to the stage. And then, later that exact same day in Los Angeles, there's a massive lineup including Katy Perry, global pop star Lisa, Anita, and Future. I mean, it is an absolute powerhouse timeline of global star talent.
All right, shifting gears a bit for our final section, off-pitch controversies.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the contrast. While FIFA's official slogan and the whole overarching theme of the ceremonies promises that football unites the world, the factual reality off the pitch tells a much more complicated story of travel bans, visa disputes, abruptly revoked tickets, and controversial dynamic pricing. Basically, the beautiful message of unity is actively clashing with some very real exclusionary barriers. Let's look at the neutral facts regarding these geopolitical hurdles because they are significantly shaping the logistics of the tournament. The U.S. administration has implemented a travel ban that's directly impacting both teams and fans from nations like Senegal, Ivory Coast, and Haiti, making their entry incredibly difficult. Furthermore, severe friction between the United States and Iran has caused a myriad of unprecedented issues. The tension is so high right now that Iran actually moved its team base camp out of the U.S. entirely, choosing to set up in Mexico instead. On top of that, Iranian fans have reported having their World Cup tickets abruptly revoked just days before the tournament begins. And there are even active threats of legal action swirling over whether FIFA will prohibit fans from flying Iran's pre-revolutionary flag in the stadiums. So these are significant, real-world geopolitical tensions directly complicating global participation.
And then there is the financial barrier. For the very first time in a World Cup, FIFA is utilizing dynamic pricing. So what does this actually mean? It means ticket prices fluctuate based on real-time market demand. With base prices already heavily increased, we're talking ranging from $60 to nearly $7,000 for the final, dynamic pricing is really pushing the cost of attendance completely out of reach for many average fans. It's heavily impacting who actually gets to experience the tournament in person. The financial strain of this dynamic pricing and general travel is so severe, it's actually leading to some absolute logistical extremes. Because transit and accommodation costs around these host cities are so exorbitant, some fans have been actively considering walking along Interstate 95. That is a major, high-speed, and highly dangerous U.S. highway, folks, all just to get to MetLife Stadium in New Jersey to save a few bucks on transport. It's gotten to the point where local officials and New Yorkers are having to publicly urge fans not to do this for their own safety. It perfectly highlights the massive infrastructure and cost reality that everyday fans are grappling with just to see a single match. So we're left with a massive question as we wrap up this explainer. Will the beautiful game transcend the off-pitch controversies? We have the biggest tournament ever planned, incredible global star power, and a unified cultural message. But we also have incredibly strict new rules, unprecedented costs, and deep geopolitical divisions. As the first whistle approaches, it's going to be absolutely fascinating to see how the magnificent spectacle on the pitch balances against the complex, unyielding realities off it. Thank you so much for joining me today, and as always, keep questioning the headlines.